This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You are watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
Okay, so I got a DM, a direct message over on Instagram, and it's in relation to Demetrius Andrade versus Jermall Charlo, WBC, WBO unification at middleweight. And I thought it'd be quite an interesting video to do because it's not the first time I've seen people talking about this. Quite a few people have mentioned the fact that Eddie Hearn mentioned the name of Jermall Charlo in relation to a unification with Demetrius Andrade. And firstly, anybody who messages me over on Instagram, there's a very good chance you could be waiting days before I see it. And seriously, in fact, I look at messages where they're over 20 odd weeks old, because I don't really read the messages on Instagram too much because I get so much spam and crap and that over there. I don't like filtering through it, so I tend not to really look at it. Something really has to stand out for me to go, okay, cool, I'll click that one. So if anybody really wants my attention, it has to be either here on YouTube or over on Twitter, where I'm far more active than what I am on Instagram. Either way, so this guy, he sent the message a little while ago, and I've only just recently read it. So again, I have to apologise to him for it. But anyway, in relation to Jermall Charlo and Demetrius Andrade. So I'm not going to go through word for word of what it was that he said. In fact, I'm not going to mention his name because I'm going to embarrass him a little bit in this video because he did contradict himself. But the reason that I'm doing this isn't necessarily because of him, but because I've seen it a little bit here over on YouTube. And it's an interesting subject, and it's something that I've been thinking about for a while anyway. So I thought, you know what, let's just put it into video form. Now, in a nutshell, kind of what this guy was getting at was that he's very unhappy with Eddie Hearn. After Demetrius Andrade defeated Liam Williams, that he's unhappy with Eddie Hearn with the fact that yet again he's mentioned the name Jermall Charlo in the same breath as Demetrius Andrade. Why is he going in on Jermall Charlo when Jermall Charlo, he's on the other side of the street? This other side of the street thing, Errol Smith Jr. has a lot to answer for that. That is absolutely an absolute shambles. Anyway, so Jermall Charlo, he's on the wrong side of the street. Okay, he's on the PBC networks of Showtime, for example, whereas Demetrius Andrade is on Matchrooms with DAZN. Yes, they are kind of on the wrong side of the street, but what he was really trying to get at was the fact that Eddie Hearn doesn't have the same energy when it comes to Demetrius Andrade fighting Triple G. Why is he not mentioning Triple G's name or going in on Triple G? Why is he calling Jermall Charlo a coward and this, that, and the other? Why is he not having the same energy with Demetrius Andrade versus Saul Canelo Alvarez or Demetrius Andrade versus Billy Joe Saunders? These are in-house fights. That's what he was getting at. So while I knew what it was that he was getting at, I ain't going to lie, I decided to play a little bit of a game because I wanted him to somewhat trip over himself, because I kind of sensed what it was that he was getting at. Now, as much as I agreed with him, because, again, let's be honest, you don't really see Eddie Hearn going in on Triple G. Triple G, why aren't you fighting Demetrius Andrade? Why are you ducking him for? Blah, 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 blah. Don't be wrong, he has kind of mentioned it in relation to Triple G wanting to fight Murata at the end of the year. There's plenty of time to make this unification fight now. But while I got his point, I just went back and said, well, wouldn't you want to see Demetrius Andrade versus Jermall Charlo? Because I was getting the impression that he was a big Jermall Charlo fan. So he said, yeah, I would, but Demetrius Andrade, he needs to be cleaning up his side of the street, as in DAZN, with Triple G, Canelo, and Billy Joe Saunders. And Eddie Hearn should be making those fights. Jermall Charlo should be cleaning up his side of the street over on the PBC. So, right away, when you look at it, who is it that really Jermall Charlo can really be fighting over on the PBC side of things in the middleweight division? There isn't really anybody. So I went back to him and I said, okay, then so why is it that Jermall Charlo is fighting this guy that nobody wants to see? Because for me personally, I was very disappointed the fact that this name was mentioned for Jermall Charlo as for him to be fighting next on the Showtime schedule that was recently announced. Especially after Jermall Charlo, he's made a big fan out of me lately after defeating Sergey Derevyanchenko in more convincing fashion than, say, Triple G in that did. So he could be the best middleweight currently. But I was hoping that he was going to use that as a bit of momentum and then start proving it. For him to be fighting this guy, and I don't remember what his damn name is, that's how unimportant this fight is to me right now, that he hasn't just gone back a step, he's gone down the ladder several steps. This fight isn't doing him any good. He's had a lot of fights already. Why is he fighting this guy? Anyway, so I said, okay, so if Demetrius Andrade should be fighting Triple G, Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders, etc., then why is it that Jermall Charlo is fighting this guy when he should be fighting David Benavidez? Jermall Charlo has mentioned David Benavidez. David Benavidez has mentioned Charlo. It's an in-house fight. What's the problem? Why are we not seeing that fight? And he kind of like come back, and it did irritate me a little bit because, I mean, sometimes you can misread things, so maybe he didn't mean it that way, but he was saying, well, David Benavidez is a super middleweight. Jermall Charlo is a middleweight. This is pretty much how it was that he was wording it to me. So, therefore, why should Jermall Charlo have to move up in weight to fight David Benavidez? Why should David Benavidez have to fight at a lower weight to fight Charlo? And at that point, I knew he didn't really know what it was that he was talking about. Because for you to have the energy that Demetrius Andrade should be fighting Canelo or should be fighting Billy Joe Saunders, well, Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders fight in the same weight division, super middleweight, as David Benavidez. So why is it that Andrade should be moving up to fight Canelo or Billy Joe, or them two should be moving down to fight Demetrius Andrade, but Charlo and David Benavidez shouldn't? Now, if we're just talking about, say, Triple G, I can totally agree with you. I can totally agree with you. Why is Triple G not looking to fight Demetrius Andrade? According to Eddie Hearn, because Triple G, he wants to go fight Ryoto Murata at the end of the year. Why does he want to fight him? Because it's an easy win for him, let's be honest, or at least on paper should be an easy win. Because no disrespect to Murata or anything, or even Rob Brandt, but if Rob Brandt is defeating Ryoto Murata, what do you think Triple G is going to do to him? Granted, Murata, he did get revenge on Rob Brandt, but still, that should be a pretty easy unification for Triple G to become a unified champion, right? That's why he's doing it. Does he really want to fight Demetrius Andrade, who's much younger, who's faster, who's slicker, and a southpaw? Because Triple G, at his age, and quite noticeably, he does seem to be slowing down a bit. I don't know whether it's the inception of Jonathan Banks as his trainer now, but for me, he seems to be missing quite a few beats lately. Does he want to be chasing or doing a 12-round fight? Just chasing around Demetrius Andrade? Does he want to be doing that? And getting picked off with a jab and that at times and frustrated? No, of course he doesn't. He wants someone who's going to stand there in front of him, which is pretty much like Ryoto Murata. So I fully understand why Triple G doesn't want to fight Demetrius Andrade. I get that. But at the same time, Eddie Hearn should be pressuring Triple G over that. I can agree with it. Much like we're not seeing Demetrius Andrade versus, say, Daniel Jacobs. But again, Daniel Jacobs, he's just moved up to super middleweight now. So who else really is there over on DAZN that Demetrius Andrade should really be fighting? But again, to go with the whole different side of the street thing, I don't buy into that whatsoever, because Eddie Hearn did say, well, the money that Charlo and the PBC paid Sergey Derevyanchenko, give Demetrius Andrade the same money, and Demetrius Andrade will go over to the PBC and fight. That's an easy solution, isn't it? So from that perspective, Eddie Hearn is absolutely correct. If the money that it costs Showtime to pay Derevyanchenko is going to be the same to pay Demetrius Andrade in a unification fight, then what's the problem? Why is Jermall Charlo fighting this guy? I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful to him, but I have had a look at his resume before and I weren't too impressed, which is why I was very disappointed in that fight. But why is Charlo fighting this guy for? Why is Charlo getting a pass for fighting this guy when all he's got to do is cancel that damn fight and fight Demetrius Andrade on Showtime for the same money as what Derevyanchenko got paid? There's the offer. I don't know what the problem is. While I agree with people saying how Eddie Hearn doesn't seem to have that same energy when it comes to Triple G and everything, I agree with that. But going back to the point, you can't be mentioning Demetrius Andrade's name in the same sentence as Canelo or Billy Joe Saunders, who, by the way, are fighting each other, if you're not going to put the same energy into Jermall Charlo fighting David Benavidez. Okay, Benavidez isn't a champion, I get that point, but they're two different weight classes, aren't they? They all are. If you're saying Andrade should be fighting Canelo or Billy Joe Saunders, cool, then Charlo should be fighting David Benavidez. Correct? Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe, catch you on the next video.